Hey, what's up everyone? Thanks for joining me. Today is the big day. I'm here at iWire where we're gonna be swapping the RS and basically giving you a how-to tutorial on how to attack this thing the best possible way, because I've got the best in the business here helping me. I have Brian Keene.
Oh, okay.
I have Lance Stewart, and Lance has helped me. Both of these guys have helped me with the bucket. We have a large pile of parts here. And this, I mean, from what my experience is, it's all about the prep work. Making sure you have all the parts you need to actually do the swap. So,
especially if you want to do it in a day or two.
Yeah.
You need to have everything pretty much you see here. Now this is engine only swap. We're not swapping the transmission. That's for a later date. We want to do something that most people do. A lot of times our customers keep the stock transmission, so we wanted to replicate what you'd likely to see if you're doing this yourself. So kind of walk through all the parts that we got. So new radiator, we're going to switch it over to a GD radiator. Whole bunch of hoses to go with that. Turbo cross member. We're going to do steering rack on BuckYeahs. That's not required. We'll get more into that later. Airbox, power steering reservoir bracket, radiator brackets, obviously the engine. Check out the prep work we did in the previous videos before we got here. So keep in mind this process has been a month long. Full complete exhaust, stock exhaust, all the bolts, the gaskets, sway bars, clutch and flywheel, miscellaneous components, and then obviously the key component here. You need a wiring harness to make this work.
This, if you guys are like, you're on a budget, you know, you're all about like saving $1, that's not where you save the dollars right there. That's like, you can have all this other stuff, and when it comes down to it, you can have one screwed up wire harness, plugs, anything like that. Don't skimp on the wire harness.
Yeah, the thing that I always tell people is sometimes people are not, they're, you know, $700 or so, depending on what it is. If you don't have $700 to spend, whether it's with us or something else, you don't have enough to do this swap. So just keep that budget in mind. It's going to cost more than you think. We're also going to do a bunch of posts later that's going to break down the costs you see here. We won't go over it now, but keep an eye out later and we'll talk about those kinds of things.
All right, and then next up, we have all the parts all lined up. Brian and Whitney were kind enough to put all this together for us so that we can have an eyeball on it. One thing I do want to point out and share with everyone out there, although Brian and Whitney and Lance here at iWire are like the #1 guys to go to as far as like wire harness and everything, I don't want you guys to think that these guys are doing swaps here at the shop.
This is a resource for you guys. Not we're doing this for you guys now.
Yeah, this is more of a how-to do this on my page, not call them up and say, whoa, you did this on BuckYeah's video and how do I do this? Like, nope.
We're sharing
Hit me up in the comments and maybe Lance and Brian will chime in.
Yep. And we're sharing this through BuckYeah for you guys. Yes.
Yeah. Don't call them.
Not
unless you're getting a harness.
Unless you're getting a harness, call us.
So just to give you a roundabout figure of what this is going to cost you, it's going to basically cost you anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000 because
you've got a couple $100s in radiator, you have probably $1,200 to $1,500 in an engine, $800 in a clutch, crossover is going to be a few $100. A harness, depending on how you do it, is $700 to $1,500. I always tell people a swap's going to cost you $5,000. There are a lot of people that are going to be able to do it cheaper than that. You're going to do a lot of reusing parts. That's fine. But just know that you're reusing parts and your budget's going to be cheaper. But eventually, you're going to spend that money either now or later.
Plus, you got to factor in the refresh that we did to the motor, all those parts that we got, all the new hoses, all that. So, yeah, it's going to be close to $5,000.
Yeah.
So, I would definitely advise you not to do this to your daily driver.
Unless you have, I would say this.
Unless you have Brian,
Lance, I was gonna say, unless you have us.
Unless you have the bat phone number.
Yeah.
You know?
You can get a ride.
You can get a ride to work.
Basically, the way I look at it is, yes, this can be a daily driver, but there is a time where during the engine swap where your car will be down. That's anywhere from the 2 days that we're gonna spend to 2 months. It just depends on your time frame, your skill set, your budget. All those are key components to this. So make sure that if you're going to swap your car, you have another car or some way to get to work, because the last thing that you want is to have the car that gets you to work down, and now you can't get your paycheck to pay for your car.
So to get started, what we're gonna do is, the first thing that we're gonna address is pulling the motor. That is the first thing, and by doing that, we're gonna pull the battery first, and then Lance is gonna walk us through the important things to address when pulling a motor.
All right, it's super important that you do this as simple as possible. Less stuff you take off, the less stuff you have to remember where it goes.
Yeah.
So try to take off in big bulk chunks so that you don't have to remember every nut and bolt. Secondly, do try to segregate the bolts. The bell housing bolts, there's 2 top bolts that are longer, that if you put them in the wrong location, you will bust the block.
Yeah.
So that is super important.
So we'll show you that. So first off, we're gonna pull probably this whole airbox assembly, so we're not like knick-knacking on bolts and stuff. And then we will, I think we pull the compressor,
Yep.
which will just slide to the side. But what I do have to note is I already had my AC line pre-drained and done professionally, so I don't have anything to leak into the atmosphere. So these are all ready to come off, so we'll pull those off. And that's one thing I advise you to do before you do the swap, so you're not polluting the air.
Wish I could go up there. It looks really fun up there.
It has begun! Get these out of the way, and then we're just gonna undo the dog bone here. So these are the long ones?
Yes,
So you
the
don't-
2 top bolts are the long ones.
Boop. See the difference? Make a note of that, write it down, whatever you gotta do, don't fuck it up.
All the bits are going in here.
I just installed this, god damn it.
Sweet, thank you.
Anytime, man, anytime
yeah,
you need
appreciate
me.
you. Now it's done.
Anytime you need me, I'll be out front here.
Yeah.
All right, Lance drained all the coolant on his face.
I took a little bit of a bath.
Pushing was that hard?
Yeah.
Dude. Huh? We got $5, $5, $10, $10, $10, $10, $12, $12, $12.
We are going to remove the power steering lines so that we're going to leave the pump, everything all intact as one piece, and we'll pull out the engine.
Okay.
I've yet to figure out how to catch it all without making a giant mess.
Bigger pan?
Yeah, probably. Perfect.
Oh, dude, it's so frozen on there. All right. Hey, who wants to start some shit? Here we go. All right. Who wants head?
Family channel.
That's what separates iWire's channel from my channel. Is we fucking don't give a shit fuck. Okay, good.
Oh, buddy.
Oh.
Oh, somebody didn't have
Hold on.
You told me to leave it alone. I blame it on
You
you.
got it?
This is my job. There you go.
Remember I told you I unplugged it? I didn't. You didn't. You totally didn't.
All right, so we need to trim these flaps here.
How come we're trimming the flap?
Probably because it gets in the way of the turbo.
Easy.
Whoa.
Thanks, guys. Let's go this way.
It's a lot different when no one's talking to me.
So the last thing we need to do is we need to undo the rest of the bell housing bolts and then the 2 motor mounts nuts that sit right there. Now most of it should just kind of keep itself together, but be careful when you're doing this. And then it's ready to come out. The engine just goes.
The engine is ready to come out. All right, so we're lowering the car, but Lance,
Yes.
you made a note that we need to tell everyone.
Yes, super critical moment is when you're pulling the engine out, you have to support the transmission and almost pitch it up a little bit so you can clear the studs from the motor mounts. If you do not do that, you will fight this all day long and it'll never come out. The other part too is you have a plate. Some places remove them, some places don't. There's a plate underneath here. If you come around, you can see it, that covers over either the torque converter or the clutch or whatever is, you know, the application is that covers over it. You have to push that down in order to clear that as well.
The other thing to note is we have a lift, so we're using it with a jack stand.
Yes.
If you don't have a lift, you would use a jack stand and like a piece of wood and lift it up from underneath versus lowering the car on it.
But the critical thing is that you get it up.
Right. So
And-
basically, you need to shim the transmission up in order to get the motor out.
Angle of the dangle.
Also, make sure you remove the dog bone, or at least move the dog bone out of the way so that the transmission will come up. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you want to get out?
Nope.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Cozy.
All right, stop.
That's good. All right. You have the bolt for that other one?
Yeah.
Want me to hold this and you get that?
You need a washer.
No, I usually just use the wishbone bolt. Hey, one thing to note too, you want to talk about, you want to make sure that
Show it. Show 'em.
the
Show 'em.
transmission and the engine separate. See how it already opened by itself? This
See
is
the
a good
seal
sign.
here is cracked right here,
If it
so you want to
doesn't
make
do
sure.
that, don't smash us. Don't smash anything in there.
But if it, yeah, so as long as it's separated, that means that everything is loose and it's ready to come out.
And then the last piece we want to talk about is the clutch fork issue. RS trans, non-issue. WX or STI trans, there's a push rod through here and you got to open it up first and pull the rod out so that you can release the clutch fork, or else the transmission will never separate from the engine.
And that's the problem that I always hear, like, I can't get the damn transmission separated from the motor. It's because of that clutch fork bolt.
Yeah.
And it's hidden. And if you don't know about it, then you're screwed.
Yes.
Yes.
RS trans, non-problem. Turbo trans or DCC trans, you need to deal with it.
Now it's wiggle time.
It's
Should we
wiggle
lower it?
time.
Let's wiggle.
Just right. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll get a little pry bar and kind of walk it out a little bit.
Yep.
Walk it out.
Okay, so right now is when we're hitting the plate. So what you can do is get your pry bar if you have it and push down here.
There you go.
Now grab the front of the engine, just kind of pull and walk it out a little bit. There we go. Done.
All right, so I'm here in my interior where Brian has been labor intensive
I haven't done anything I'm talking about.
taking apart my dash. And if you want to follow all the intricate details of actually what it took him to get this dash out and ready, then go to iWire's YouTube channel, and there is a very detailed video on basically
The whole part of the interior. Remove dash, remove harness, reinstall dash. We'll have all of that for you guys.
Yep. And I just get the easy part of removing the dash in my video.
all you.
Got it.
Got it. He's got a trophy.
All right, well, there's the dash.